I want to invite you on a journey with me. It's a journey that took 19 years, but I have millions and millions of sisters around the world who have been going through this journey, who have completed it or are just starting. It's a journey to a hysterectomy. Sometimes our femininity and our value as a woman is attached to having a functioning uterus that can birth children. But what happens when that goes wrong? What happens when that uterus has done its job or didn't do the job and yet has to be taken out? This has plunged so many women into deep depression, and they have lost their sense of identity and value, thinking that their worth is tied to this organ. This journey of 19 years that I have put together and compiled in vlogs is what I'm inviting you on. How did I get here? I am still in post-recovery, but many things I have learned, and the most important one is this: my creativity and my ability to create life did not end with my uterus. I want to be able to share some of those principles that I've learned with you. But first, again, strap up your seatbelt because we're going on a roller coaster ride. This is the journey to my hysterectomy. Hello, back again, talking about the journey. I just wanted to kind of give you guys this view back here. See, this sun. Yes, in my happy place. So in continuing this journey that I wanted to share with you about, started in 2000 when I had Nigel, and he was one that I prayed for because I wanted a boy. I had two girls already, blessings of my life, and I did want to have a son, and so I took, I would say, I think it was a 30-day fasting period where I fasted and prayed, and I read the book of Samuel over and over again, and just looking at Hannah's journey and her faith and how she talked to God and how she fussed and cried, and then I got pregnant, and by faith I said, it's a boy. No one had to tell me it was a boy. And it was really interesting with my friends, kind of like, okay, we'll just let her have her thoughts, but I believed it was a boy, and of course ended up being Nigel. Well, a few weeks before birth or due date, started having a little bit of complications in a sense. I would go to the doctor, and the pain would start, and then it would get really, really close, and then it would stop. And when I say pain, I mean contractions, and it would stop, and it went on for a while. It had moved past Braxton Hicks, and I would go into labor and get to like 2 minutes apart, and then it would stop. So one day I went to my gyno, my OB I should say, and she did an ultrasound as you normally do, and he was kicking and he was doing his business, and she left the room and came back, and she checked it again, and then she left the room again, and she's like, I'll be back. She came back, and she's like, so go home, pack your clothes, and meet me in the hospital. And I said, okay. And she's like, we can't find a baby, so I need you to go home, pack, and meet me over at the hospital. So what I didn't know was that I was going to be having an emergency C-section, or she may have said it and didn't click. So we get there, and a little bit about emergency C-sections, they can just go any kind of way. My case, I was not put to sleep. It was too late, and so I was awake, and I remember kind of looking over and seeing the tech or whoever cleans the apparatuses, whatever it's called, and I remember during it her saying to the kid's dad that may have to choose between one of them, and me saying, nobody's going anywhere today. I fasted and prayed for this boy, and we're not going to go anywhere. So I was cut from top to bottom. I do not have a bikini scar. I didn't get that luxury. So I do have a beautiful scar that goes from top to bottom. And this boy came out. Apparently he was spinning around so much, but the cord was so tight around his neck that it just, you know, he's a gift. So anyway, I spent some time in the hospital, you know, C-section, and wasn't feeling too great, you know. I just wasn't feeling myself. And remember Sandra, rest in peace. She came to see me. She's a medical, you know, personnel. And I said to her, Sandra, you know, I just don't feel well. I just something doesn't feel right. She called a nurse, and I remember this nurse at this hospital in Connecticut coming in the room and saying to me, you need to get up. I said, look, I just don't feel well. She's like, well, you know, this ain't no luxury surgery. You need to get up. You know, you can't be lazy. And I was like, what? And, you know, she made some comments as she walked out, like, you know, these people just come up in here and think that they in a hotel. And I said, Sandra, you know, she's just so mean to me. And she would just come in and be like, oh, get up. You have to get up and move around. That's the only way you're going to heal. This ain't no vacation time. So Sandra got the doctor, and they were like, okay, we're going to do a urine sample. Well, they take the urine, put it in the bathroom. I put it in the bathroom, and never came for the urine. Never. They never came for the urine. And I'm feeling feverish and whatnot. And, you know, my wound was feeling kind of, you know, it just wasn't right. Oh, I should have given a disclaimer. Disclaimer, if you get a little bit, you know, grossed out, you might want to cut off from here. But man, you know, Sandra lit into them. She lit into them, and they came and they're like, okay, we're going to give you antibiotics. You should take care of the little infection you have in your incision, and you have a bladder infection, and so it's going to take care of that. And I was like, so you're going to send me home with a fever? And they're like, yeah, you're going to be okay. You know, sent me home. Nigel was born December 5th, and at Christmas Eve, wasn't feeling good. Still weak, still feverish, and my stomach just felt heavy. Go to the bathroom, sit down, and my womb opens up. And that, my dear friends, began the journey of where I am today. And that was 2000. My wound opens up, we go back to the hospital, and we get in, and the doctor comes into the ER room, and he takes a look at me, and he comes back, and he starts to just squeeze at my incision. And I remember him saying, oh, look at them suckers, look at them suckers, look at them killers. And I passed out with the pain. And then I remember him just saying, okay, you know, you can go home now, you're okay. And I was like, you're not gonna give me antibiotics? He's like, no, I got all of them. And I was like, what is it? He's like, it's just, you know, staph and strep. You know what staph and strep is? So he sends me home. 2 weeks later, back in the hospital again. This time, bladder, it was just the worst. And so subsequently, I am in the hospital. I should say, you know, it just began this trip of me being, if that was the wrong word, sorry, in the hospital for months and months at a time, in and out, in and out, in and out, in and out with the same situation. I'm sick, I'm on antibiotics, I can't breastfeed Nigel, I'm bleeding blood at this time. Now they're telling me I may have Crohn's, they're telling me, you know, I may have all this situation going on with the womb. And I remember going to the hospital one time, and I was peeing blood, and a tech comes in, and the tech says to me, hey, here's the number of this doctor. You need to call this doctor, because if you stay coming to this hospital, you're gonna die. And I remember the other doctor saying to me, look, we have given you every antibiotics that we can find. The next thing we're going to have to give you is what we give to cows. This infection is not clearing up. It was spreading through my organs. It just was a hot mess. And I know that they had even told kids that, you know, I'm probably not going to make it. Probably not going to make it. I was deathly sick. I was sent to gastroenterologist, just a whole mess. But what that did was, with the infection in the wound and you know, just all of these complications, the infection had spread to up to my kidneys, and it just did a wrecking on the inside. Now I'm almost done with my time here, but I'll be back to share just a little bit more about how God saved me from it. But yet I had to deal with now almost 20 years of 19 years, sorry, and where I am today. This infection had just blown up into this huge health crisis for me. I was on antibiotics for probably a whole year, and we had gone into the infection spreading into my kidneys. My whole stomach was just jacked up. And if you had not seen the video before, I had an emergency C-section. I was sent home with 2 infections, actually. One in my incision, which was top to bottom, of staph and strep, flesh-eating bacteria, and a bladder infection, which is it's common for even childbirth and C-sections. But the medication was never strong enough, and it just wreaked havoc. It never cleared up both infections. It kind of just tapered it off, and then it came back, you know, stronger and so forth. So here it is months later on. Like I said, I did not get to breastfeed my child because I was just on too many drugs. And I was sick. I looked like just a malnutritioned woman. I have pictures to prove it. And it just was a really tough journey for the kids, for their father. We were married at that time, and I was just sick, and I was just not getting well. And every time I went to this hospital, and I know what you guys are going to say, I'll explain that later, but every time I went to the hospital, the treatment was just not good. It just was not good. It's not funny, but you know, I'm a hard prick. I'm a really hard prick, and every time I go to the hospital, I do say to the techs, you can't find my veins. I don't know how I'm human. And the guy went in, and then he's like fishing around, you know. And I'm like, is he supposed to do this? But I'm in so much pain. Then he pulls the needle out and pushes it back in again. And I was just like, I'm done. Then they had to take me for the ultrasound, and it's like an incline in the hospital, and the tech is like going with me on the stretcher, and he loses control of the bed. So I come sliding down back the ramp, hit the wall, come back out, hit the wall. I'm like, I'm just gonna die on a stretcher. I guess this is what's gonna happen. I'm just gonna die on one of these hospital beds, not even seeing the doctor yet. I think the kid's dad caught the bed or something as it was rolling down. But anyway, it just was a lot. I was like, God, what is happening? If you don't know my story, then this little bit of information might help explain some of the questions that you may be asking. I was undocumented at that point. And there's a state of mind that you're in when you are in a place where you technically not supposed to be. There's a fear that you live in, and there is a state of miseducation that you sit in. There is a place of silence that is handed to you in a beautiful gift box called "You're Gonna Go Home." And it's just, you don't ask the questions. You are afraid. If you have a family, you want to protect them. And again, it's just the uncertainties. So for me, being undocumented left me in a very weird predicament where here I am, sick, not being treated properly by this hospital, months and months and months and months of just misdiagnosis or not proper treatment for the situation, and I can't do anything about it, or so I thought. And so hopefully that will explain a little bit about why I just took so long before I did something about it. So anyway, one day, again as routine, this is my life now. In 2 weeks I'll be back for you guys to tell me go home again and give me some powerful drugs that probably the cows are like, girl, don't even take that because they don't do anything for us. If you drink the milk, you're gonna get it anyway. But we're back in, and I have this infection in my kidneys now. Okay, and this tech comes in and he's like, you know, here's a number. Call this number. Don't say where you got it from. And as this doctor, she could see you because, honey, if you keep coming here, they're gonna kill you. You're just never gonna get better. So we went ahead and called the number, and thank God the doctor took me. And when she saw my chart, she was like, "What the heck?" And she sent me for the proper, you know, tests and so forth. And they got me on some really awesome. Do I have to include this here? All this time now, Dr. Garcia, which is a naturopathic doctor, friend of the family, lifesaver, had been, he had come in and he was now treating me also. And so the recovery was literally a powerful combination of naturopathic medicine, natural remedies, and detoxing and cleansing of the cells down to the microcellular levels. The diet, yes, but it was a lot of the detoxing. With this infection was like literally in my blood, and then with the medicine of my doctor. And so it was a powerful combination of two people who swooped in like angels to save this girl who I think if we had not done that, I would not be here sharing this story with you. So here we go, and we're on the road to recovery and so forth. But the lasting effects of the trauma on my womb, my uterus, is where I stand here today, about to face in a couple of weeks the end of that particular journey. I said this was 2000, so 19 years. Nigel's going to be 19 in December. The trauma that this body underwent for a couple of years was 99% retractable, but that 1% still had its effect. And my womb has never been the same since then. My normal womanhood cycles have never been the same. And I don't know if you guys know about the woman with the issue of blood. I kind of became like her grandniece, great grandniece, where I just assumed responsibility of her lineage. And I just have had an issue with extremely painful cycles and long periods where I probably would go more than 10 days sometimes, or I may have 4 days break before it started again, and just a lot of heavy bleeding, a lot of weakness, a lot of fatigue, a lot of abdominal issues, a lot of back issues with that, and just, you know, just having to journey through that. So this is where I am, and have gone through many procedures, and I'll talk about this in the next video. And the reason why I'm actually trying to bring light to this, because I know that I may be talking about this now, but I'm not the only one that has been through this. It may not have looked the same way as far as with the journey coming up to it, but it ends the same. And there's a vast community of women who have had to process through coming to this end of this road for this situation. And I felt that had I not opened my mouth to share it, even with my aunts and stuff like that, I would not have known that some of them had gone through the same thing. I have women now who are literally saying to me that they did the same thing, and they're sharing their stories. And I realize that we have a community of women who have been pretty courageous with going through the process of mourning and acceptance of of this particular surgery and this particular end. So I'll be back. I have to share it with you a little bit more about this abnormal cycles and the emotional journey that takes a woman on. It takes a lot, and it really does bring you to question sometimes your womanhood. And it's a question I've seen a lot of, and I've seen people have to go to therapy for. And I want to talk to you guys eventually about how the loss of friends and my dad and the principles of grieving have helped me to prepare for where I'm about to go. All right, see ya. And here's the sunset again. It is pretty fantastic. It is pretty fantastic. So, all right,